If you're a serious solo board gamer, the chances are that you recognize this image as the opening portal place in the game of Mage Knight, and you will also recognize that it's not typically on a card. This video is going to talk about a mini version of Mage Knight. It is called Mage Lite, although for reasons we'll talk about, I'm not sure that's the best name for this game because it's not light. It is successfully, for the most part, in originally 18 cards, and we're looking here at more than 18 cards because I have the expansion, but is successfully capturing almost everything you can do in Mage Knight in a card-based version that is easy to set up and is robust in what it can allow you to do based in the mechanics of the original game, based in the art of the original game, and indeed the designer of this game gives credit at the outset to the publishers of the original game for use of the material. And I think that goes a really long way to furthering the sort of wow factor, for lack of a better word, of being able to play, set up, and experience a lot of what Mage Knight offers really quickly in a small footprint based in cards. So if you're familiar with this designer's work, which includes the miniaturization of games like Gloomhaven as well as Mistfall, you know that to make the game work in terms of cycling through your deck, you can see that there are cards that have starting value, a waning value, and as you play cards from your hand, you will, after you play the card and your turn is over, you will move the card from the starting value to the waning value and then place it under your deck. And when it cycles through again and you play it as a waning card, you then ultimately discard it. In order to get an advanced action or to upgrade your card, you can turn over the card that you choose to upgrade. And by doing this type of mechanic, you have potentially 4 values on each card. And that is how you cycle through the cards in your hand. For the spells and the ally offer, that's not what it's called, but you have these cards within this function. So you have the available, you only have certain spells that are available to you in the offer, and when you decide to purchase a spell, for example, I just used a marker to indicate that that was the spell that I actually had. I think this is the least successful implementation of the material because it's not comfortable. I guess it's successful, but it's not comfortable because it's not clear always exactly what the offer is, and the two types of offers, the colors are not so clearly differentiated, but this is the higher level here and the lower level, and you can upgrade the offer by saving influence to sort of allow yourself to turn the card over and then have access to the higher level offer. So that's how those aspects work. The reputation and fame is tracked on these cards. I'm not doing it the way it's meant to be done, but you will begin tracking this way and then upgrading as you go to have your fame and reputation. And there is a implementation here. If you're playing the game on a casual mode, you get an additional amount of fame as you level up, so it allows you to advance more readily through the through the game with the upgrades that you have to your character. You have a sheet here for the skill tree or the skills that you can attain, and your character card has a built-in, as you upgrade, you get access to various skills and you can make choices. So there is like a modified skill tree as the character is upgraded, and then you make your choice as to what skills you get. If you are playing with the expansion, you have a second character card that allows you essentially to function as a dummy player, because as you go, you will be turning this card, and when you get to 7, that will declare end of round. And I use this for, I think, practically speaking, given the limited number of cards, you don't really need that as a tracker, but it feels comfortable to have it if you're used to playing the game with the dummy player, to rotate this card as you go. And then there are dots here. You can see it's a teeny bit hard to see, but you have the red, and I believe these are 2 blue dots. So if the mana source is any of those colors, you will then advance 1 extra turn, not 2, even if it's that color, but up to 1 extra turn to accelerate the end of the round. How do you know what is in the mana offer? You know because you refer to the leftmost icon here on your card. So with this hand of cards, and you're playing your hand in a specific order, you're not shuffling your cards around, you would have an offer of green, blue, and gold for the day, or I should say for the turn. It might be night, of course. And as you play your card, I play my hand on the table. As you play the card, you just sort of move it up so that you know it's been played that turn, but you don't move it around because you need to refer to this mana as being in the offer. Now, I have some cubes that I use when I pull in my hand of cards to just set that up so I know what it is. But even so, you're not supposed to be shuffling your hand around because you're needing to keep that static. And then when you're done playing, you either will do the relevant action of rotating your card, or if it was on waning, discarding and then drawing up a new hand of cards. Also with the expansion, you have these trackers so that if you actually attain a crystal during the course of your card play, you have a way of indicating that you keep it. So in this particular case, along the way of the game, I had accrued 1 red, and I think something knocked off here. So you can use this, and I do recommend, if you're going to, this is a print and play game. I don't know that I said that at the outset. It's a print and play game. The files are available for free on Board Game Geek, which is awesome. This printout of the game was sent to me by the designer, the build of the game, because when I printed it out myself, the colors came out sort of dark, and I don't know whether that was my printer or the files. I suspect it was the printer that I used. I don't have them handy to show you, but maybe at the end of the video I'll show you what I got. So I mentioned that to the designer. He was kind enough to send me this to show you this version of the game, because the richness of the print is really, it's really on point with the, I mean, this just looks like you're playing the game as it was designed in the box, in the big box. And I think that the aesthetic aspect of that is very central to making the game work. And I will say I had considered at the beginning of this video doing a comparison with Mage Knight, which is another mini implementation of Mage Knight. And this game is available at the Game Crafter, and I bought it there, and it is, I'm not doing the comparison because I didn't actually care for Mage Knight very much, and some reason why had to do with the aesthetic choices. It just doesn't feel to me like Mage Knight. It feels like some mechanics that are from Mage Knight, because it's very similar, and you can see the similar mechanic here, and I don't know which of these two designers came up with that first, but to me, there's just a big, this makes a difference. The aesthetics of it makes a difference, and the only thing, honestly, that I used from this after I played it a couple times was the little mini that came with it that I now put with Mage Lite, because that worked for me. I did the Mage Knight does have something that I liked that are the smaller cards where the spell implementation is with cards and the upgrades is with cards, as opposed to trying to keep it on one card, which, as I said, just felt a little bit tight. I would love to see for this game, although I understand it increases the printout and the footprint to some extent, these spells and the offers of the supporting ally offers in actual cards, because I think it would just make the game more comfortable to play, and it's really the only thing that feels physically uncomfortable about the size and the miniaturization of it. The enemies work effectively in a card shape. There is a key here to know what enemy you have, which is referencing the color of the guiding mana color. It will be the leftmost in your hand. So if this is what it is, green, and you come across an enemy, a brown enemy, say for example, you would reference this row, and you could see the leftmost here, you would be facing this enemy. The designer of this game has managed to you can just look at the iconography here, has managed to incorporate I didn't really tally it up, but a great deal of the enemy effects and special actions and things that enemies can do from big Mage Knight here. For this game, as well as for Mint Knight, you will need to know how to play the main game in order to understand how to play the little game. And I can say from the designer's miniaturization of Gloomhaven, which is a game I have not played, it was hard for me to figure out how to play his game Gloomholden, because I feel like I first have to go back and play Gloomhaven. And I would say the same is true here. If you were new to Mage Knight, I suppose you could watch the classic standard Ricky Royal series of videos, or I would also recommend the Flying Solo McLaughlin's Mage Knight series is excellent in learning how to play the game, in understanding the strategy and the goals of the game, all of which are very similar to what you're doing here in Mage Lite. And this is why I say I don't think it should be called Mage Lite. I don't know what it should be called, but this is not a light version of the game, except in components. So yes, the components that you're seeing here will come in and will fit in 2 boxes like this. So it's light in that respect, but it is not light on mechanics or what you're able to do. All of the environmental interactions are here on the cards. Now, I think this card comes with the expansion, and again, I would recommend, if you're going to print this out, to print out the expansion, because you will get more cards that will be more environment cards, and you'll also get the crystal tracking, which is quite useful. Of course, you could implement that on your own, I suppose. You'll get the extra card to track the dummy, and you will get some different cards in your hand to represent the fact that you can save crystals and not just save tokens. So I do recommend printing out the expansion, but even without the expansion, you are getting the capacity in the way this game is built to do almost everything that you can do in the main game. And that is just pretty miraculous in terms of how it modifies the experience, yet keeps it so similar that when you sit down and set this up, it's pretty easy to set up if you know how to play Mage Knight, and you put your character at the beginning portal, it really feels like you're about to play Mage Knight. And that's pretty incredible feeling. Now, why would you want to play this in a card-based form? Well, I suppose if you're traveling, that would be, you could actually easily take Mage Knight with you. And if you had, I suppose, a desire to play the game with a faster setup, that would be another reason. I do love my Mage Knight, but it takes time to set up. It takes space to have set up, and this will fulfill that Mage Knight desire in a much easier way. And in fact, I have it on something, if you can tell this, I have it on something portable here, so I can move it. I've been able to move it around and clear it off my desk because I don't have a dedicated gaming table, so it's good for that. And just from the perspective of demonstrating the flexibility and the elasticity of Mage Knight, which I've talked about I've done a couple of videos on Mage Knight, and one of them I called My Mage Knight, and you can see the link to that up here, that I add into Mage Knight some fan-made material and some house rules to make it more fully an adventure game, in the sense of not having every encounter necessarily be combat-based, and to pull in some mini quests and things like that. And I think even this version of Mage Lite could support the use of that material. It's just that good. It's just able to capture the brilliance of the design of Mage Knight that effectively. And that is pretty genius, really. And you can see as I'm just sort of haphazardly packing this up, it's not going to take me that much to set this up again, even though I'm just collecting these cards in a way that is not particularly well thought out. That is, I'm doing this for a reason, to show you that it is super, super portable. And you need to know the game of Mage Knight to play Mage Lite, but once you know the game of Mage Knight, to set this up and play it is super quick and easy, and gives you that experience and that feeling of whatever it is you like in Mage Knight. If there is something, and you're watching this video probably because there is, you will get it here in Mage Lite, and you will really feel like you are playing Mage Knight, but you're playing it with a small footprint, super quick to set up, and with an appreciation for the real cleverness of the designer who was able to put this together.